Hello everybody, it's Heidi. You are watching Heidi Creates, and today we are going to paint a very loose watercolor painting. And I'm doing this because this is July, and July's birth flower is the delphinium. So we are going to do the delphinium, and I want to show you how you could take a very inexpensive watercolor paint set with the brush that it comes with and paint yourself a very lovely watercolor. And then I'm going to do some pen line drawing on the watercolor afterwards. And so basically it's kind of like a pen and wash, but I'm doing the wash first and then be doing the pen detailing afterwards. You can get these set of paints in any big box store. I have my water and I have a towel for wiping my my brush off. Go ahead and get started with the painting. One thing about delphiniums, if you're not really familiar with them, is that they are a rather conical but aspiring type of flower. I'm going to mix my colors up, and I'm going to be doing this painting in purples and blues. And yes, this comes with purple. We can also mix our purple with some blue. We can mix it with some red to kind of get a good mix of color here. A few different mixes. There's a purple here that I mixed just by putting the blue and the red together. And there's even this really pretty reddish purple over here. A touch of blue in it. If you are not familiar with watercolor, the more water you have, the more desaturated your colors will be. I'm not sure I'm going to use all those, but we have the possibilities here. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. The blossoms are very open at the base of the stalk. As you go up the flower stalk, it has a lot of buds. We can make this so that some of the blossoms are not facing full forward. Like this would be full forward. This is kind of angled more to the side, and go ahead and leave some space. I want to see some of that green stalk. And over here we can make a flower that's facing to the side. I don't have a whole lot of rhyme or reason to the shape. Again, I'm being just super loose about this, just squiggling. The buds kind of curve off away from the stalk. I'm going to go ahead and make those. And as we come down, more of the flowers open. Right now I'm just kind of adding some flowers in the background. They're a little more faded. My brush is getting drier, so the colors are not as intense. They're lighter in color. And when I'm doing something that's in the background, it doesn't, you know, they fade. They tend to be not as, you're not as focused on them. I like to do things, you know, especially when flowers in odd numbers or groupings. The flowers do have these little tails that come out. I really like to just add more color in, and so I'm taking some of the blue. I'm going to wet some of my flowers and do some wet on wet because I kind of like to let it bleed out. I'm going to wet some of the flowers. I'm not adding too much water because I don't want to disturb or move the color that I've already put down. Good heavens, we can do more than one color. You can come back here and I can use that fuchsia. So I've mixed up some green, and I've actually used the green that they had pre-made in the palette, but I also mixed a little more yellow with it and just a touch of red, just so it's not such a bright Kelly type of green. And I'm just going to come through and just get little touches of green wherever I think the stalk would be showing through. And then on like some of these buds, I'm going to take the green, I'm going to touch on there a little bit. Get this Delphinium stem. Actually to the plant, which is important. I think on this one I'm going to add some more little buds at the top of this one, but the leaves are pretty interesting on the delphiniums. They're very they're very pointy and ragged. There's like 4 or 5 different little points to the leaf. And, you know, not necessarily every leaf is showing, or every point is showing on the leaf. You can make it look like they're going back a ways so you don't see the whole leaf anyway. And sometimes what makes it easier to draw is draw your 5 points and then come in and make it scraggly. So I think of these leaves as being very scraggly. Yeah, and you can just add that to it. What I'd like to do after that is we want to add a little more dimension and shadow to the green as well. So just make your green a little darker, more muted tones. You could add a little more blue to your green to make it darker. You could add more red to it and make it less bright green. The red will neutralize it more. If you do too much, it'll make it muddy, it'll make it brown, and you won't like that necessarily. And decide where your light source is, which side you want to shadow. We have some overlap, so we want to be sure that whichever one is on underneath is the one that's darker. And again, I'm just doing this with the brush that came with this particular paint set. No fancy brush. Showing you what you can do with just the most basic, inexpensive supplies. I'm going to go in and in some of the centers just put some yellow. I don't want it to be a bright yellow in the finished look. I'm going to tone that down. We'll leave that for highlight. Then I'm going to tone it down with a yellow that's been, a little bit of purple has been added to it just to mute it. I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit of purple to that yellow, not much, just to tone it down a little bit. And leaving some yellow highlight, the bright yellow. These do need to be darkened a little bit. Right, we need to let this dry really well before we do our line drawing on it. So for my line drawing, I'm going to be using a new pen for me. I usually use a Micron pen. This is one made by Sharpie. This has a 0.08 tip on it, and they call it a no bleed. So we'll see how this one works. So one of the things that we can do is we can give a little more detail to a very loose wash. I think about 5 to 6 blossoms, and they overlap, obviously. It's okay, you don't have to stay within the lines, but you can also use the lines to kind of indicate which direction the flowers are facing. Have fun with it. You know, just some loose petal shapes. Again, that's just adding a little more detail to something that started out fairly loose and abstract, and just giving it just a little more detail. And they could be very short lines. You can add longer ones. You could add bolder lines, you know, like out here, make one of the lines a little bolder. You can add a double line. Let me show you. Let's just do this one. But I can come in here and add a double line to this, which is kind of indicating that that petal is curling over. Go ahead and keep going with this. Also, well, I'll show you here just, you know, with the stems coming down. And sometimes I like to do like broken lines, that making sure, or I even like to just do start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. And that way the lines aren't so, I'm not trying to make them perfect. Let's make it a little more interesting. Again, with the stems, you could add any lines to indicate more shading or shadow, and also to indicate shape. The stem is much like a pen. It's rounded, so you want to use rounded or curved lines to indicate the shape of the stem. Well, there you go. This is my version of a very loose pen and wash watercolor painting. I hope you give it a try, have some fun with it. Just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Let it be perfectly imperfect. The more you do it, the better you get. When you're doing something really loose like this, the black lines certainly do help to bring in more detail, and even they don't have to be that perfect. Hope you give it a try, and until next week, have a great one.